Hi, Christy. Hi, Anthony.
So it is 6 o'clock right now. Can I just get some staff to confirm that we have quorum?
Yes, we do.
Hello, Patrick.
Okay, very good. So it's 6 o'clock. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can we do a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Craig?
Here.
Director Cromings?
Here.
Director Jimenez?
Jimenez here.
Director Phillips?
Here.
Director Rocha?
Here.
Director Silva?
Present.
Director Tipton?
Present.
Alternate Vice President Lopez?
Present.
And President Cullen.
I am here. Awesome. We got everyone here. So before we get deep into things here, I will make the announcement, a couple of announcements. One is related to interpretation services. So we do have interpretation services for all of our regular board meetings. To access that, you would dial 425-436-6345. The access code is 444666. And those numbers are on the screen. And if staff could do that announcement in Spanish, please.
Sure. Servicios de traducción están disponibles llamando al 1-425-436-6345. El código de acceso es el 444666.
Very good, thank you. And then the other announcement is, as we get to agenda items, public comment and agenda items, if anyone, members of the public, would like to speak, if you're on the Zoom meeting, you would click on the raise hand button. If you're on the phone, you would dial *9 to indicate that you would like to speak. And then once called upon, you would do *6 to unmute yourself. And those instructions are on the screen as well right now. And on that note, I do want to, before we go to the general manager comments, I do want to welcome our new board members. So welcome, as was previously stated by esteemed Salinas Mayor, we do enjoy talking trash. So you will join us in our monthly discussions about trash. But this is a good board for several reasons. Again, for the newer board members, I've served on this board for 12 years, and you will find that between the staff is fantastically organized, hardworking, diligent, and passionate, and they are equaled by all of the employees of the authority. We've got just wonderful, wonderful employees at the authority, and you will come to learn that as time goes on. So welcome again to the newer board members. And on that note, I will turn it over to the general manager comments, please.
All right, thank you, President Cullen. With all due respect and to avoid any punishment from Mandy in the morning, we aren't talking trash, we're talking resources. I'll give you my pitch for the day. So I got a couple of quick updates. First, I also want to welcome all of our new and returning board members. Look forward to having your input and your point of view added to the discussions. We have a lot of very challenging things in front of the agency this year, particularly with new unfunded regulatory mandates. Mandy and I actually were lucky enough today to have a direct call with the new director of Cal Recycle to talk about some of our concerns and to we got a few assurances from her on the depth of their enforcement activity in the next year or so, because I think they are recognizing the impacts of COVID. So that's was some hopefully good news, at least for the next year or so. Also, just an update. We have mentioned this briefly, but there is another mandate that has come down the pike very unexpectedly for the entire industry, and that is the banning of treated wood waste from disposal in landfills. Quite simply, it's a hazardous material. It is benefited from a variance by the Department of Toxic Substances Control for many years. And there was a bill to extend that variance, and the governor allowed that bill to die and basically vetoed it by ignoring it. So reality is all of a sudden it became a hazardous waste. So there's a lot of scrambling going on in the industry right now. And we'll keep you updated in more detail, probably next month or March. We expect there'll be some fixes coming, and that'll allow us to continue to do what we've been doing with it to provide that service. You also have some additional comments that were sent out late today relative to the rate hearing from our public services, as well as my communications with them regarding budget direction discussion for tonight. So if you haven't read those, please feel free to look at them. They've been attached to the back of the supplemental agenda that was sent out late this morning. And then finally, there is as we go into the next item, which is election of officers, there was one item that was actually overlooked. We overlooked it, we missed it. So I apologize for that. And that is that the board has at its discretion the option to also appoint the past president for the first year as a member of the executive committee. That was done many, many years ago as a way to just provide some transition and sharing of knowledge and information. And so the board may wish to consider that as they go into the next item, whether they want to appoint Director Cullen to sit on the executive committee as a representative past president and provide that sharing of information of things that have gone on in the last couple of years. So that concludes my comments for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Before we go to the department manager comments, I don't know if you intended to do this, Director Phillips, but you clicked the raise hand button. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'm just really worried about that treated lumber thing because that's such a big product now. What are we doing with what are we in the other landfills doing with treated lumber?
Well, two things are going on. One is we've gotten quotes for disposal. There's only one landfill permitted to accept that in the state of California right now. That's down in Buttonwillow. The other landfill that's available for it is in Nevada. And so when you add in the disposal, transportation fees, and handling, and the fact that these landfills, the price is exorbitant. It's hundreds of dollars a ton. And so we're expecting that the Department of Toxic Substances Control will reissue variances and allow us to go back to disposing of it. Unfortunately, those variances, likely the process won't be until March until they issue those, and maybe later. So what we're doing in the short term is we are stockpiling that material in covered drop boxes. We are limiting it to small household quantities and what we call low check materials only in the short term. Unfortunately, contractors with large volumes, we can't take that. We don't have the ability to store it, and we don't have the legal right to dispose of it any longer. So the best we can do at this point is tell them if they can hold on to it for a couple of months. Hopefully this will work out and we'll be able to go back to the past practice.
All right, thank you, Patrick.
And go ahead, Director Cromings.
Does this include painted wood?
No, just
Okay.
treated wood. So
No, just the treated.
just the treated wood, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick, for that information, and thank you for those questions there. Let's go to department manager comments, and let's start with Caesar, please.
All right. Happy New Year, Board President and Board of Directors. Real quick, just an update on COVID. We haven't met since November, but just a real quick update on COVID. We were hit with the same wave that pretty much the rest of the country was hit with. The post-holiday COVID hit. We did lose quite a bit of employees. Potentially, I want to estimate probably up to about 20% of our staff at one given time. Fortunately, we were able to staff the facilities with the remaining staff and work some overtime, but nevertheless, we got through. We were pretty close to potentially shutting down a site just to have enough manpower. But just a real quick update. We're back to pretty much full staff. I'll have the rest of my staff back next week, and we should be back to full staff with the exception of a couple of vacancies. So that's the good news on COVID. It looks like we've passed that holiday wave, and hopefully don't see these impacts anytime soon. And then the second item I want to let the board know about, I spoke to the EC about this earlier this month, but the long-awaited Gloria Road, Iverson, Johnson Canyon project was completed, and the board worked on that hard for about 12 years, and so did the county and the city of Gonzales also. And they are receiving an excellence award from TAMC on January 27th. So just a quick heads up, that project that everybody worked so hard to get completed over the past 12 years. If you haven't driven those roads, beautiful roads, they're highways, pretty much probably the best roads in the county right now. But they are going to get an award on the 27th from TAMC. So just a quick heads up for the board. And that's all the comments I have tonight.
Caesar, do you know what time that meeting is?
I have it. I'll pull it up and I'll let you know before the end of the meeting.
Yeah, if we could, and I don't think it was sent out. If we could send that out to all the board members, for those board members that may want to attend that meeting, for that portion, that would be nice.
Definitely, I'll get it out to Erica and have her send it out by no later than tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
It starts at 9 o'clock. It's the TAMC regular board meeting. We just don't know at this point, because the agenda's not out, what time, if that's at the beginning of the meeting. I'm assuming it is. So it'd be 9 o'clock on Wednesday, the 27th.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. All right, and let's go to Ray. Ray, you got anything for us?
I have nothing at the moment.
Okay. Brian?
Good evening. No comments from me tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and Mandy, you got anything for us, Mandy?
I do. I have two quick announcements. Resource recovery staff, our recycling staff has been very busy behind the scenes for the last, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but almost a whole year. It's been since COVID's been happening. And so we have been converting all of our programs to online programs. Normally our Talk and Trash has now turned into Talking Organics, and we're all about food scraps and composting. So we have two new programs. We have a composting challenge. It's open to Salinas Valley residents, and they can take a quiz, watch some of our new videos, and then they can earn a free compost bin. And then we also have a brand new food waste and recycling award program, which is open to nonprofits, school districts, and public entities that are feeding the hungry, to encourage them to start recycling their food scraps and implement food recycling programs. So that's new for this year. It's in place of our normal Wally Waste Not a School Award program, because we don't have schools that are actually in person teaching at this moment, or at least the mass majority of them are not. So lots more information. Erica will be sending out an email to all of you with all of that information in the email about our two new programs. But we're pretty excited. So hopefully you take a look. Even if you don't want to win a compost bin, I encourage you to at least take a peek at our new videos and outreach online that we're producing. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's a great pivot from the Wally Waste Not Awards. That's a great idea. Looking forward to seeing the details on that. Okay, so let's go to board director comments. Director Lopez, I see you have a raised hand. Go for it. And then you can do your board comments too.
I'll just keep it a question for Mandy. Mandy, do we get credit for AB 1336 on the diversion for home compost?
For 1383, is that?
There you go, 1383.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Do we get any credit if we're having folks compost at home?
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge component of our outreach and education, and it qualifies as a large program that not only do you do composting workshops or compost giveaways or home composting. It's very hard to quantify what the home composting diverts, but it is a definite marking a checkbox for a home composting program as being compliant with 1383. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, why don't we stay on you, and then do you have any board director comments?
No additional comments this evening. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go down the list. I'll call upon the directors, and let's start with Mayor Craig, please.
Trying to unmute and instead I'm raising my hand. Sorry. You'd think I'd figure out Zoom at this point, 11 months into the pandemic. Hi all, pleasure to be back. No significant comments. I do want, just for a reminder, I'm making this request of Patrick, the supplemental information packet that gets emailed out, either 1 or 2 days or even day of in advance. I'd like a little bit of clarification, doesn't need to be now, it can certainly be offline, on the purpose of supplemental information versus posting at a regular time. And I just, honestly, it's been a couple of years and I just need a refresher on that, just so I remember why there's a secondary supplemental at every meeting. So I just would make that request at some time in this upcoming week, 2 weeks, that you can give me that gentle nudge as to why, just procedurally, why that occurs.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, and let's thank you for asking that question, and especially since we have a couple new board members. Patrick, why don't you go ahead and answer that now? I think
Sure.
That's good information for all of us to have.
Well, this goes back many years. Typically, our supplemental is really just for posting our PowerPoints for the most part. So the staff reports are in the agenda, and those go out the Thursday, Friday before the meeting, and then give staff a little bit longer to get the PowerPoints together. We and many agencies don't normally post their PowerPoints in advance of meetings. You see them at the first meeting, and many years ago, that was a request that was made, that we go ahead and post the PowerPoint. So that's mostly what we do. Today, we just had a secondary one only because we wanted to put those written comments in front of the board because they are germane to the budget direction discussion today. So that's not something we normally do. It's usually just PowerPoints.
And I'll just add very quickly what you'll, for the new board members, what you'll see when those supplementals go out, the very first page of that supplemental will always state what was added. So it makes it a little bit easier to know what was added. So thank you again for that question, Mayor.
And
yes,
if I may, just a supplemental ask on it, and since we're just going to get it out in the open now. How often, what's the standard procedure in terms of like how early do you traditionally post the supplementals? Is it usually day of? Is it 2 days? I know we got it, I think, on Tuesday, but is there a consistency on that, or does it's based on like when you get the PowerPoint done, that kind of thing?
We have an internal deadline. They have to be done by Tuesday morning. So our standard practice is Tuesdays for supplemental.
Okay. The supplementals go out on Tuesdays for the Thursday meetings then?
Correct.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification on it. I just, at the city level, we don't traditionally post supplementals unless there's a last minute ad or an emergency. And so I know that the supplementals are pretty regular. If I remember correctly, that supplementals are pretty regular at the Solid Waste Authority, and I just needed a refresher on why that was. So thank you.
Good. Thank you again for asking. So let's go down the list for board comments, and I will start with Director Phillips, please.
I'm good. No comments. Thank you.
Okay. Director Cromeans?
Just Happy New Year to everyone.
There we go. Let's go to Director Silva.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the new members, Ben and Anthony, and welcome back, Kimberly. Good to see you back on the board.
And Director Tipton.
Again, Happy New Year to everybody. And I'm just glad to see that we actually do have a couple of companies in our town that are going to be taking part in the food waste trials that are going to be coming up. Thanks to Mandy, we've got four companies in our town that are actually going to be doing that. So we should be seeing the new bins out there shortly.
Great. And then Director Rocha, since you are new, do you mind just doing a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Anthony Rocha. I am a new elected council member in the city of Salinas. Prior to that, I served on the Board of Trustees for the Salinas Union High School District. I'm excited to be here. I see some friendly, familiar faces and some not so familiar, but hopefully just as friendly faces. And I'm excited to serve on this board. thank you to Mayor Craig for appointing me, and it seems like it'll be an interesting time talking about resources, not trash. But yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you, and welcome to our board. And yes, I will say that we are all friendly. I don't know about Ben Jimenez. I haven't met Ben, but I can speak for the rest of the board and say that we're all friendly. So on that note, Director Jimenez, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm friendly too, even though I don't look that way. Actually, I'm a retread. I served on the council prior years back. I was a former mayor. I've served on many of the boards. However, I never had the opportunity to serve on this board. So I'm looking forward to it. I had an opportunity to meet with Patrick and kind of get me up to speed, but I got a long way to go. I got my thumb drive. I'm looking at my material, but I'm looking forward to working with you all and and gathering resources for our communities, and so looking forward to that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, and I don't have any comments to add at this point in time. So we will go to public comment, and as a reminder for any public that is on the Zoom call, you would click the raise hand button, and if you're on the phone, you would dial *9 to indicate that you would like to speak. I'll pause just for a second to see if anyone would like to speak under public comment. And I don't see anyone that's raised their hand on Zoom. Has anyone dialed *9?
No, it doesn't look like we have public comment.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and go to the next item, the elections of officers. And I don't know, for some reason that just brings a smile to my face. So the election procedures. So what I'm going to do is open the nominations for officers, and we're going to hear from the nominating committee. So that is Director Silva and Director Phillips, who will be providing the report.
Liz will. Go ahead, Liz.
I should have spoken quicker.
Yeah, that's right. You were a little slow at the.
I know it's that darn mute button. Anyhow, as you all know, and for the newcomers, our executive committee is comprised of a member from the city of Salinas, someone from the county of Monterey, and someone from one of the 4 cities in the valley. There is a change happening this year, and so we have placed into nomination for the office of president, Chris Lopez, who represents the county of Monterey. As vice president, we have Christy Cromings representing the city of Salinas, and as alternate vice president, Drew Tipton, who represents Greenfield. So with that, I would, along with Mr. Phillips, we nominate these 3 for the executive committee.
And before we go to public comment, oh, sorry, Director Phillips?
Yeah, and I'd like to add, we didn't discuss it, but it's usually that the past president stays on the executive committee. And so I'd like to add that to our nominations.
Thank you for that.
We don't want to see you run too fast, Robert.
There you go. Thank you for adding that. And yeah, in this instance especially, I would like to stay on the exec board to keep that that component. Obviously, we've got a lot going on, and there's, I think it'll be important to have me continue on the exec board. So with that being said, we first need to go out to public comment on this item before we do board discussion. So public comment, click the raise hand button or dial *9 if you're on the phone. And seeing no public that's raised their hand, has any member of the public dialed *9?
No, no members from the public.
Okay, then I will bring it to the board for discussion. I see Mayor Craig, you still have your, either you just raised your hand again or you still have it raised, one or the other.
I actually figured it out and I just raised my hand again for this particular item. So just for clarification, does the past board, executive board chair have a vote on the executive board?
No, they do not. They're
Thank you, General Counsel.
Sorry. Hi, Roy Santos, General Counsel. Nice to meet you and everybody. It's good to see you again. But yes, the prior board president would be in an advisory capacity only, with no vote on the EC board.
Okay, I'll move approval of the election of officers to include the advisory position of the past chair, Rob Cullen, for this year.
there a second to that motion?
Second to the motion.
Second.
Okay,
Second.
I think, well, Phillips. How about Phillips for the second? I heard a couple voices there, but we'll do Phillips for the second. Before we call for the vote, is there any board members that would like to provide a comment or a question? Okay, and then if we could do a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Director Craig,
Yes.
Director Cromings,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Phillips,
Aye.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
Director Tipton,
Aye.
Director Lopez,
Aye.
and Director Collin.
Aye. And so motion carries. Before I virtually pass over the gavel to Director Lopez, excuse me, Board President Lopez, I just want to say it's been, I was going to say a pleasure. I don't know what word to use. It's been a good experience overall being the president the last 2 years. We have such a wonderful board and wonderful staff that kept me organized. And I want to give a very, very special thank you to Erica and the other staff that kept me in line with things and had me prepared for meetings. I deeply, deeply appreciate that. It's been a pleasure serving on this board for 12 years and a pleasure serving as the board president for the last 2 years. And you're stuck with me for another 4 years at least. So we'll see how things go. So on that note, I will end my comments, and I also get to now change my Zoom name. So I get to turn it over to Board President Lopez.
Thank you, Rob. And I just want to say thank you to you for your service. I know that having you here over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of new faces on this particular board over the last 2 years. And so having that continuity with you in that seat as president and now continuing on as EC and stepping up to serve in that role ongoing is really important. And so I want to just in front of the entire board say thank you for your service and thank you for your continued leadership on behalf of all of the residents who are very fortunate to be able to be served by the Solid Waste Authority. So thank you.
Thank you.
And as incoming president, I just want to say that I'm very thankful for the staff, and I've been fortunate to work closely with you over the last couple of years on the EC, and we've faced a lot of challenges, and I know that day to day we tend to communicate often on the things that we have to deal with here in the Salinas Valley around resources, and I'm appreciative of all the help. I'm a frequent customer of our different sites, and I always appreciate the frontline staff and their friendliness, and I look forward to getting to play a little bigger part of this of the role in this organization as we move forward in the next year. And so I want to say thank you to every one of you for your support and stepping into this capacity coming off chair year on the Board of Supervisors. I'm excited to have the time to serve in this capacity. So thank you for the opportunity. All right, with that, we're going to head into our consent agenda. And on our consent agenda, we have items 1 through 9 today. And I want to go ahead and share that on the consent agenda, we have to comply with SB 1436, which requires an announcement to be made before taking action on a particular item today. And so before we take action on this item, which is 9, I'd like to publicly announce that the Board of Directors this evening, as part of the agenda, in number 9 on our agenda, is making a recommendation to approve the revised salary schedule effective January 1st, 2021, pursuant to the employment agreement between the authority and R. Patrick Matthews for services as General Manager and Chief Administrative Officer. The revised salary schedule includes a cost of living adjustment of 4% effective January 1st, 2021. So with that statement made, what I'll do first is turn and see if there's any member if there's any directors who would like to pull an item from this consent agenda for conversation. Seeing no hands going up, I'm going to turn and see if we have any public comment on our consent calendar today. I remind the public that using *9 will raise your hand if you're participating via landline, or the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen to be recognized. Seeing no hands going up, I'll bring it back for action.
This is Phillips, move consent.
Tipton, second.
I've got a motion from Phillips and a second from Tipton. Can we get a roll call vote, please, Erica?
Sure. Director Craig? Director Craig?
Yep, sorry about that. Yes.
Wait,
Director Collin?
Aye.
Director Jimenez?
Yes.
Director Phillips?
yes.
Director Rocha?
Actually, I have for the minutes of November 19th, would I have had to have pulled that separately to vote to abstain because I wasn't on the board at the time?
Roy?
You can still vote on the minutes even though you weren't on the board at the time, because they're the minutes of the authority, not the minutes of the individual board members.
Okay, then yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Alternate Vice President Tipton?
Aye.
Vice President Cromings?
Yes.
And President Lopez.
Aye, the motion carries, and with that, we've wrapped our consent calendar. Next on our agenda for this evening is a presentation from Monica Ambris on our 2020 employee survey results. Monica, I will turn the floor over to you.
Good evening, President Lopez and members of the board. My name is Monica Ambris. I am the Human Resources Supervisor for the authority. I will be presenting the 2020 employee survey results. Next. The survey provides us with some input into the thoughts and ideas that employees have regarding their roles, responsibilities, morale, and degree of engagement. Next slide. Job attitude is a major factor in determining an employee's perception towards goals achieved and looking ahead. We asked employees, do you know how your job is important to the authority? The results show a positive 96% yes. We asked, are you challenged in your position? This number increased from last year. We asked, do you like your job? We hit a 98%. That's pretty good. Next slide. The next area that we looked at is morale. Morale is very important to any organization. Our agency's morale is trending up. I'll read some of the positive comments received. During the pandemic, leadership has really come through to employees, and happy as is, and upgrades and improvements to the organics facility is a positive. Some comments on suggested ways that we can improve include more and or better communication, updates on future plans for the authority, hire more help, and the COVID vaccine, which is an external factor. Next page. We asked our employees if they know the mission, vision, and goals of the agency. The results for these questions have trended pretty consistent in the mid-upper 90th percentile over the years. Next page. We looked at general attitude. General attitude looks at actual behavior and its impacts to the organization. Some of the comments received in this section include, my supervisor is well-rounded in many different areas, which makes for a well-rounded leader, always has a positive attitude, and approachable. Next slide. Engagement measures how invested an employee is and their perception of their work environment. Some of the comments received in this section include, upper management works with us to understand and gives us the tools we need to be efficient and successful. The ever-changing environment requires us to improve and continue to learn on a daily basis. The agency provides crucial services for residential and commercial customers and provides an outlet for e-waste and HHW. Next slide. Although all of the comments are important, I will share with you some trended responses. This year, I used word art to illustrate employees' comments. If a word or comment appears multiple times throughout the survey, the word appears larger and bolder. Next slide. We will start off with the comments received on what is the worst thing about your job. COVID came up many times, of course, and which resulted in a busier workflow of customers and traffic, We also had some rude customers, customers not wanting to wear a mask, and the uncertainty of the agency's future. Some of the comments received on how we can improve communication were: employees miss having regular staff meetings, which has drastically changed during the pandemic. Also, the communication on radios for operations staff can improve. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, did we go? I think we missed one. Yeah, there we go. Employees said the best thing about their job was their coworkers, employee benefits, working for a better environment, flexible work schedules, learning, and working with the community. Next slide. The survey is used to measure progress from year to year. Now that we have all this valuable insight, each manager will meet with their respective departments and brainstorm ideas for improvements. Management will review the proposed initiatives for improvement and discuss what can be implemented. We'll continue to uphold our positives and work on ways to improve our challenges. That concludes the employee survey results. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Let's go ahead and see if we have any questions from directors at this point. I don't see
I have a
any
question.
hands up. Yes, Director Rocha.
When this survey was sent out, was it stated that the responses were going to be anonymous?
Yes.
Okay, and how many times was the survey sent out?
So it's sent out in paper format to the operational staff because they don't have access to computers. So to about, I would say 45 employees, they received paper copies. And there is a kind of like a ballot box that once it's completed, it's put in there. It's a locked box, and then that gets brought back to the administration office. For office staff, it's sent out electronically through SurveyMonkey.
And how many?
It was sent electronically, I believe, 3 times, and it was mentioned or reminders were sent out to operations staff 3 times as well.
How many office staff are there?
18.
18. And did you get, what was the percentage of response that you got?
We received 46 out of 60.
Okay. I did strategic plans for my previous job, so I commend you for your outreach to the staff on a regular basis. I know that it's not easy to get input from staff on stuff like this, but thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Director Rocha. I'm going to go to AVP Drew Tipton. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I've just got a couple of quick questions. It looks like, looking at the numbers, particularly in their general attitude, it looks like there's a rising level of concern about the mid-level leadership, particularly around feeling respected at work, feeling informed about things that are important. And do you feel your supervisor does a good job with leadership? And I'm wondering what we're planning on doing to help address that. While I realize that obviously COVID and a lot of the regulations are going to have a lot to do with that, but I realize as well that there's an awful lot of workers and a lot of people that don't like being told this is just the way it's going to be. And I really think that that's probably a lot of what's going on. But I think it might be good particularly for some of the staff, to actually be able to articulate to them why we do some of the things we do. And I'm wondering if that might make some of the difference in their attitude.
Yeah, that is a good suggestion. We do have a communications training planned for all staff, employees and supervisors and managers alike, on the different personality styles and how to communicate with each other. But because of COVID, we've been kind of holding off on that, but we have noticed based on these comments that is greatly needed at this time.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other directors at this point? Seeing no hands up, I'm going to turn and see if we have any public comment on this presentation. I'll remind the public that *9 or using the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen is the right way to be recognized. Seeing no hands going up, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. And this is just an informational item. So for this evening, I believe it was a presentation that we can go ahead and deem received. Any additional direction you'd like at this point from this board? Monica?
No, but I would be interested in speaking with Director Rocha on some of his strategic planning in regards to the surveys and others.
Wonderful. Yeah, email me.
All right, good deal. With that, we'll go ahead and close item 10. Thank you so much, and head into item 11, which is a resolution approving a revised staff personnel allocation, adding one additional solid waste technician 1-2 effective January 21st, 2021. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ray Hendricks for a presentation.
And I just noticed this is a one-slide presentation. It's the shortest presentation I've ever written. So I'll keep this fairly brief. We did present this request as part of the mid-year budget adjustment to the executive committee, and we were directed to bring it back for discussion with the board. We are looking for a solid waste technician 1-2, salary and benefits depending on where the employee is hired, what step of range, somewhere between $130,000 and $160,000. The solid waste technicians are essentially our construction crew. They're the ones that deal with maintenance at the closed landfills and some of the CIP construction that we do at the sites. We are currently behind on several projects at the closed landfills as well as Johnson Canyon, totaling roughly about 1,000 hours of man hours that the current staff just does not have time to work on. Long term, we're also working on a rolling closure plan for Johnson Canyon landfill, and part of that will require additional manpower for construction quality assurance, which can be done in-house if we farm that out. It's $125 per hour plus travel time, and since the rolling closure will take several years to complete, it'd be beneficial to have someone in-house that can kind of flex in and out of that job without having to wait for other manpower to come in. And with that, I will be happy to try to answer questions or defer them to the people who know the answers if I don't.
Thank you, Ray, for that very succinct presentation. We appreciate that. At this point, I want to see if we have any questions from directors. I see a hand up from Director Rocha.
Thank you. $130,000 to $160,000. That seems like it could be a pretty high level position. I wonder what is the recruitment process for someone in that role? Are you putting it like on Indeed or how are you recruiting for this position?
The position does require some landfill experience. We typically start with recruitment in-house. For matter of fact, I think almost every solid waste technician we filled has been promoted in-house. If we do not find a qualified candidate in-house, then we do post it and do the other postings. And if Monica is on, she may be able to better answer how we do the external part of the recruitment, since she's the one that does those for us. Did she walk away, Monica?
She was having issues with her computer.
Okay, we may have lost Monica.
But
I guess
you're correct though, Ray. We do use Indeed right now. We do the Indeed advertising, and we do use other media outlets for like LinkedIn. Within, like Patrick and myself for sure, with other solid waste professionals. And then we've done the Californian in the past, but as we all know, the Californian doesn't reach that many people as it used to, but we do advertise Indeed and in the paper as well, if we need to go external.
Oh, okay, but for the most part, they're always internal candidates that you're hiring for these positions.
Yeah, that is correct. We open it up internally for any qualified current employees to offer them promotional opportunities. And if we have a qualified internal candidate, then we'll take that candidate and then backfill their position.
And what would be the typical position that would transition into a solid waste technician position?
It could be a solid waste tech. It could be an employee whose previous experience qualifies as construction or equipment operators. That kind of knowledge in the background. We do have employees that have come to us from a construction background. Also, we do have employees that have a little bit of a equipment background as well. That helps out a lot. Most of the work that we do is a lot of maintenance at the landfill. It's not rocket science, but definitely you need to understand the landfill because it is a live creature with the landfill gas, the methane, and other environmental control systems that we have out there. So definitely look for the right candidate that's going to help us out and pretty much minimize our outside costs, which is the reason why we like to hire our own people to eliminate or reduce our costs to outside contractors.
If you're hiring someone internal, are they starting at 130,000, or where would they be in the?
I think that range, board director, I think that's all based on the insurance benefit that they fall under. Is that correct, Ray?
Yeah, that's salary and benefits, but yeah, an internal position would typically end up in the lower end of that range. I just, for sake of transparency, wanted to put the entire range up there.
And is this salary something that's the typical range for a position like this?
Yes.
Okay. And are other ones also, other solid waste authorities also using that job description, that title, solid waste technician?
The job titles may vary. The duties are pretty similar. It could be a landfill gas maintenance technician. I think the district uses landfill gas maintenance technician, and all they do is their environmental control systems. And I'm not sure what other agencies up in the Bay Area may classify them as, but we all use them. We all have environmental control systems that require a lot of attention. So farming it out, as an example, I think we did some work that we farmed out late October, early November, and it was about, I want to say, a week and a half worth of work that we had to farm out because we didn't have the manpower, and that ran us about $35,000 for about 7 actual work days on the side of 3 guys. So it's very pricey. Usually when we farm it out or need to get someone from the outside, the range could be anywhere from $105 to $120 an hour plus travel and per diem.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you, Director Rocha. Any other questions from directors? Okay, seeing no hands going up, I'm going to take this out for public comment. Just remind the public one more time, *9 or raise hand function to be recognized. Seeing no hands going up, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board of directors for action.
This is Rob. I'll move approval.
This is Liz. I'll second.
Thank you. I've got Director Cullen on the motion and Director Silva on the second. And with that, I'll go ahead and ask Erica to perform a roll call vote for us.
Director Craig?
Yes.
Director Cullen?
Aye.
Director Jimenez?
Aye.
Director Phillips?
Aye.
Director Rocha?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Aye.
Alternate Vice President Tipton?
Aye.
Vice President Cromines?
Yes.
And President Lopez.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you all. With that, we're on item 13, which is an update on the Sun Street Transfer Station relocation project. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that over for a presentation from Patrick Matthews.
Mr. President, we're actually on number 12.
I do apologize. I went too far down on my agenda.
Are you excited? Too excited for the
Well, it was so short from Ray, and Ray always says, you're going to see this 10 times at the beginning of every year. So Ray, go ahead and show us for the first time.
And I apologize as this one is not going to be short, as this is the first time that most of the board has seen this. We did present it to the executive committee, and this has a few changes from that. So, okay, so just to go over budget assumptions, we always start, we are writing this with the continued increase for organics program that was approved in September 2017. We do have to do some initial implementations of SB 1383 requirements. This initial presentation does show equalization of organics rates for all member agencies. The implementation of organics wood waste recovery sort line that was approved last year. There are some rate increases to fund that in the current presentation, and there are no other program changes. So all of the changes have to deal with the organics program. Next slide. Just for sake of clarity, one of the consent items did have a mid-year budget adjustments, increased the expected tonnage for organics and the processing costs for it for $444,000, and some increase set aside for increased tonnage projections. So the operating budget had increases of $510,000. So those are carried into this budget, and they're carried forward. We also did have some CIP adjustments, which will show in the year-over-year comparisons. Next slide. Okay, so before we get into all the detail, what we are presenting is a balanced budget, total revenues of $23,271,000, operating expenditures of $16,341,000, with set aside of $1 million, debt service of $3 million, post-closure of $1 million, and CIP. I actually need to take repayment allocation because those are just CIPs now, $1.7 million. So total expenditure budget of just shy of 23.3 million with a balanced budgeted balance of just under $7,000. So payroll budget increases. We have a COLA for 60, I go blank on the number, 62 and a half employees. The scheduled increase for all of them is 170,000. General merit increases as people progress through their time. Total cost is 92,000. We're expecting health insurance premiums increases of 88,000, and then all the other increases and decreases are 17,000. So total payroll increases of 333,000. The mid-year budget does have $170,000 in the budget. We did use one-time funds to help pre-fund the CEPPT for our expected unfunded liability that we will see next year. So when we look at year over year, we are at 161,000, but the amount actually funded by operations that changes 333,000. Next slide. We are requesting 2 new positions in the upcoming year. One is an equipment maintenance technician. We hired an equipment maintenance technician in this past budget cycle. And unfortunately, one maintenance technician is not enough to maintain all the equipment we have. So we are requesting another technician. The salary and benefits for the technician is $151,000. It would be paid from savings in the vehicle maintenance, just like we did this year. But having someone on hand helps reduce the equipment downtime, maintain efficiencies, reduce costs associated with contract work, and gives us in-house expertise. Also, having a second equipment technician may allow them to do some of the larger jobs, as there are 2 2 technicians there for that can work together for safety reasons on the larger equipment. This is not in the payroll increases, since this would be paid from savings in the vehicle maintenance, which are in the budget otherwise. Next slide. Other position that we're looking for is an additional resource recovery technician. Starting salary and benefits is $116,000. And primarily, there's a huge list of things they're going to do, but they basically are needed to help implement the SB 1383 programs. They would be paid from an increase in AB 939 fees. There are some other costs associated, but I'll go over the total amount in a bit. Next slide. So just to review all the projected expenditure increases, so 333,000 in payroll increases, which we just went over. After the 2021 budget was approved, we received higher than normal insurance increases. We kind of borrowed from some of the operating accounts in the current year to try to keep the budget whole. So we're restoring some of those and then planning for some incremental increases. So changes due to the insurance are just like 240,000. SB 1383 implementation. So that includes the position we just went over, plus other supplies and contract work that needs to be done, increase of 208,000. Organics program, the mid-year did have increases, but the vendor has some built-in CPIs in their contract, so that the cost for that will go up 50,000. Increases in fuel, 30,000, regional fees, 30,000, and all the other changes have a net decrease of 15,000. So the total operating budget is increasing by $877,500. And just to remind everyone, our debt service schedule, we did refinance the bonds back in 2014. It took savings ahead of time and then also took a capital lease. Right now we're at kind of a flat point in the debt service. So the debt service is just over 3.1 million for the next several years. And then it starts tapering off with the final payment due on August 1st, 2031. Next slide. CIP post-closure budget. So we have a CIP budget of 2.7 million. Most of these are year over year. We set aside money annually to replace equipment. So those budgets aren't changing. Post-closure maintenance for the sites, we're increasing those by 15,000 as we're trying to set aside some money for some landfill gas improvements that are going to be needed at one of the sites in a few years. Organics recovery program. So we built the organics program. We set aside initially 200,000 for future replacement and maintenance of the new compost pad. We are increasing that budget by 50,000 going forward. Johnson Canyon landfill improvements. Those are mainly landfill gas wells as well as construction of fence, but those are the same year over year. Roadway maintenance improvements. So the mid-year budget had a $5,300 adjustment in it, which is why that's such a weird small number. But we are, it's been requested in the past, so we're including 100,000 going forward in our budget for roadway maintenance and improvements at all of our around our sites. Along road transfer station improvements, $25,000, and then concrete grinding we set aside money annually. So we are requesting an additional 884,000 for CIPs, and as I mentioned, those do carry forward. Estimated new sale set aside, we do budget $5 per ton. So we're not changing the projected tons from the mid-year budget to the next year budget. So that's the same going forward of $1,050,000. And that is shown in the operating budget, which is why I separated it at the bottom. So projected revenue increases, equalizing the organics rate for Salinas would provide $460,000 in revenue. tipping fee increases for the organics program are $318,000. AB 939 fee increase of $267,000. So that is mostly to pay the $202,000 for the SB 1383 program that we need to implement, increasing the transportation surcharge $1 per ton, plus some additional tonnage from King City. It's $136,000. And we are proposing increases to construction demolition, but tonnages have decreased. So our revenue for construction demolition would be decreasing 190,000, and all the other revenue changes would be an increase of 70,000. So total revenue increases of 1,062,000. So the rate changes. During the 2021 budget cycle, the board chose to defer increases due to uncertainty around the COVID-19 and the shutdowns. Our budget cycle our budget typically gets approved in the March board meeting. So this happened all during the initial shutdowns. So we are requesting those deferred increases be added, as well as some incremental increases. So no changes to solid waste. Self-haul, we deferred $3. Right now, the cost of the green waste is closer to $50. So in order to have these fully funded, we need that self-haul rate closer to $48. Franchise green waste, the $5 was the last of the initial ramp up, with one more increase expected in order to get that to funded. So the franchise green waste rate would be $50. C&D, we had initially asked for a rate of $68.50 and decided, and then the request, we were going to phase that in, but the cost of that C&D program, especially with the reduced tonnage to process that C&D, is $68.50. Sludge, we just want the deferred amount from that was deferred last year to $36. Wood waste, same tipping fee as self-haul green waste is $48. Transportation surcharge, 75 cents. That was deferred, plus another 25 cents for $1 increase. And clean fill dirt. And I know this is a huge increase, but the reason for it is because we really don't want the clean fill dirt. We have a huge surplus in dirt at Johnson Canyon landfill. And at this point, it's going to cost us more money to manage that dirt than we're getting in tipping fees. Part of the rolling closure that we're working on implementing is to try to manage this dirt as we're excavating for the new cells and finding homes for it. So we have more dirt than we can use, and if we really have nothing else to do with the dirt other than to put it in the landfill, and if it's going to go in the landfill, we might as well get the rate that we would for the garbage that it's displacing. AB 939, we did defer 82,000 last year. We have 202,000 in SB 1383 implementation. So conscious that there are other increases in there. We're requesting 185,000 to mostly fund those other increases. So most of these increases that we're requesting are around green waste and C&D. These are our largest recycling programs. They're meant to reduce our solid waste tonnage, which I'm going to get in trouble because we're talking about resources, but garbage does pay the bills. It pays for our post-closure, the post-closure on our sites. It pays our debt service, as well as currently still funds AB 939, some of the AB 939 recycling programs. So we need these large programs to at least self-fund themselves so that they're not relying on the garbage that they're meant to reduce. Next slide. So what does this mean? And as we go through these next slides, these yellow highlights are the corrections. So part of the reason we had a second supplemental this morning is as I was preparing for the meeting, I found couple of calculation errors that I made as I was setting up these last few slides. So the equalization of organics for Salinas would be an increase of 38 cents. The dollar transportation is 8-cent increase, and the AB 939, which does get realigned annually based on a prior 3 years of tonnage, is 9 cents. So total increase of 55 cents for Salinas. And Tri-Cities Organics is a 28-cent increase. They direct haul, so they don't have a transportation, and the AB 939 of 19 cents for a 47-cent increase. The county is 12 cents for the organics increases. Their transportation is hard to calculate as they use a combination of direct haul, the Madison Lane transfer station, which we do not operate, and King City at South County. So roughly about 4 or 5 cents, but that's just a guess, as it all gets tied together during the rate increases. AB 939 increase, including the reallocation, is 15 cents, so 27-cent increase for the county. King City, 11 cents for organics, 12 cents for transport, 14 cents for AB 939 for a 37-cent increase. Next slide. Okay, so this is the disposal portion of the rates only. I did have to back into some of these numbers. So for the increases range between 2.2 and 6.6% depending on the jurisdiction for the disposal portion only. This does not include haulers, does not include franchise fees. So for the commercial customers, next slide. I mean, just for the sake of going through these a little bit quicker, you guys can see the numbers. So increases are between $1.12 and $1.86, depending on jurisdiction for the 1 yard container. Next slide. And same percentages, 2.2% to 6.6%, depending on the jurisdiction. Next slide. So the 3 cubic yard container, which was a typical container in Salinas, increases are between $3.35 and $5.54 with the same, next slide, but the same percentages, 2.2% to 6.6%, depending on the jurisdiction. So I know that is a lot of information, and be happy to answer any questions. And once again, I have my co-managers here to help me out if I get stuck.
Great. Thank you, Ray. So let's go ahead and see if we have any input from directors at this point before we open it up for public comment. I see a hand up from Patrick Matthews. We'll go to you first, Patrick.
Yeah, and I think this is more just for clarification for our new board members, so you understand our process. We always start our budget process in January, and so this is what we call our budget direction meeting, where we lay out the assumptions and estimates for the upcoming fiscal year budget. Then in February, based on the feedback we get today from the board, we'll come back with a draft budget. That'll be a full comprehensive budget, just like the final budget, but it'll be in draft form for, again, the board to deliberate, discuss, receive public input on. Then based on the output from that meeting, we come back at the March meeting with the final budget for adoption by the board, along with the rate hearing for any approval of any rate modifications. And the reason we do it this way is because most of our haulers, with the exception of the county, all set their rates based on our fiscal year, not a calendar year. And because of that, they're submitting to their respective jurisdictions what they call the rate package, which is they need to know what the disposal is going to be from us. That's a key component. They need to do their own cost of living calculations. and address any other additional changes that the jurisdictions may be asking for. So those are typically submitted in April. They're reviewed either by ourselves or by city staff, depending on the management structure. And then they are returned in usually at the city council or the board of supervisors meetings in the month of May for final adoption or approval. And then that gives the haulers the required 30-day period, advance period of notice to the ratepayers of the rate increases. So this is the reason we start our budget a little earlier than many agencies, is because we're trying to get certainty around any increases from our end to the haulers by April, so they can stay on track with their rate package submittals to their respective agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to go to AVP Tipton.
Thank you. I've just got two quick questions. One is, do we foresee any other additional staff being required over the next fiscal year? If possible, could we go ahead and see that included in the budget? The other thing I'd like to see too is if we could see numbers. Obviously, we have the input from Republic saying that the current agreement with Salinas doesn't allow them to adjust the rates. So is there any way we could see what the proportional impact would look like both with and without the rate change for Salinas?
I do have those numbers, actually, where I found the error in this PowerPoint because I was going back to calculate them. So the $460,000, I would propose we do that as an AB 939 fee. That AB 939 fee still being supplemented by solid waste tipping fees. But that would mean a reduction in the, and I only did it for the residential customer, but a reduction of 15 cents to the typical residential customer Salinas, and depending on the jurisdiction, increase of 15 to 31 cents for the other agencies. Should be 31 for Tri-Cities, 15 for the county, and 26 for King City.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't have time. I didn't have time to add a slide, unfortunately, before this correction when it came out.
No worries. Could you send those out to us in an email later tonight or tomorrow, please?
I will. Yeah, let me drop it into a slide that I can have Erica send that out.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Patrick Matthews.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely include that in the February presentation discussion. And so just for the education of our newer members, in 2004, the authority signed an agreement with Republic Services. Don't ask me why, it predated me, and to this day it perplexes us why this happened, but we signed an agreement with Republic to guarantee delivery of green waste, which the authority actually didn't need to do. But nonetheless, the authority did it. That agreement, though, was written at a time when a lot of the organic material was being sent to biomass plants, wasn't being composted. We didn't have all these organic mandates. We were just finding the cheapest outlet was to actually send it to an energy plant as fuel and make money on it. And so the pricing at that time was very low. So we executed this agreement. Language was put in that agreement that basically allowed that agreement to remain in perpetuity as long as Republic was the city's hauler, and there were either extensions to the existing franchise at that time, or there were restated agreements, all of which have happened since Republic's first contract in 2000. So unfortunately, bad decision on our part to execute an agreement like that, because now Republic is paying, and Ray can fill in the exact number, but it's under $20 a ton when our true costs are now at $50 a ton, including all the new programmatic things we have to do as a result of SB 1383. So this has been a long-standing issue. And as I said in my response to Republic Services, we always start with the assumption that we will equalize rates. That's a requirement of the JPA, but our hands are tied until the city of Salinas authorizes Republic to terminate that contract, because Republic has basically said we'll only terminate it if we're allowed to pass through the cost. So what you've seen tonight is what the budget would look like under that structure. And then Ray sort of indicated that there would be some modification to the rates, or the rate impacts from the authority if that agreement continues to remain in place. But this should not have any delays on the budget, because we've had this same discussion every year since 2013 about trying to get those rates adjusted back so that they're equalized for all members. So this is our starting point, but clearly based on the conversations we're having with the city, hopefully we'll find out whether that will happen or not. But if so, then we'll present an alternate rate structure that'll represent the ongoing subsidy.
Thank you, Patrick, for that clarification. All right, I'm not seeing any hands up, so I'm going to go to the public on this item and see if we have any input from the public on the presentation. Seeing no hands going up, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. Again, this is sort of the initial look for us. Is there any additional input from the board of directors? Okay, seeing no additional hands going up, we'll go ahead and deem this report received. Anything you need in addition to what we have so far, Ray?
No, I will build that slide and have Erica send it out, and we'll get and I'll include it in the presentation to EC for further discussion. As of right now, I don't foresee, just to answer the other question, I don't foresee any other positions that we'll need in the next year, but we'll definitely go back and revisit it, especially without additional funding, since they would require additional funding anyway. So, but we'll bring it back to EC and we'll have further discussion.
Great. Thank you, Ray. With that, we'll go ahead and consider that report received and head into item 13 for real this time, which is an update on our Sun Street Transfer Station relocation project. I'm going to kick this over to Patrick.
All right. I guess I'll start by saying I don't have a lot to say in the open session discussion. We do have some real property related aspects of this that we will be discussing in closed session. But we have been having ongoing meetings with city staff and Republic Services. So to date, they've been very fruitful. What we are working to complete is a framework for the public-private partnership for the authority relocation to potential relocation to Madison Lane. And so I would say that agreement is 85% complete. We've been exchanging ideas. That's not a binding agreement, it's a framework. And our hope was to have brought this into open session for discussion at this meeting. However, there are still one or two outstanding issues that we need additional board input on so that we can complete that agreement. And my expectation is we will bring that back in February, assuming we can agree on the remaining issues. And that'll start the process of us beginning to negotiate the formal agreements, which could be, one to several agreements between the authority, Republic Services, and potentially even the city, but definitely between us and Republic. So we had an update and a meet and greet this week with Jim Pia, the previous interim city manager, and the new city manager, Steve Kerrigan. That was very enlightening. I gave him a quick tour of Sun Street, so he's familiar with the facility, and Jim was taking him over to look at Madison and some other city properties and things. So we sort of laid the groundwork for continuing our discussions between the city and the authority to move past the notice of withdrawal and to try to get on track with a project that will meet the city's needs. So it was a very good meeting, I think, and Steve is very open to and wanting to have further discussion directly. He was just a very busy day doing sort of looked like he was doing a tour of the city. So only had him for about 15, 20 minutes, but it was a good conversation, and looking forward to continuing to work with the new city manager and with Jim for the duration of his time here to try to get this project defined and into agreements. So I don't know if Rob, if you have any further comments because of your involvement with this, or Chris.
Yeah, I'll add a few comments if that's okay. And clearly, these last couple few months, the city of Salinas has gone through a lot of transition, and so I'm just looking forward to kind of getting back to things and having some fruitful discussions. I mean, look, we all agree on the fact that the Solid Waste Authority needs to leave Sun Street. We also know that the residents of the city of Salinas need a facility that is convenient and meets their needs. And so if we keep that as the mantra and the general baseline agreement, then we can proceed forward on a path to get things finalized. Clearly, we need to do that. And I know as these discussions continue at the board level, that will be referring to some of the history and that will fill in some of the gaps on where we've been, which will help navigate where we go from here. But again, we just all need to set that baseline agreement that we need to leave Sun Street and at the same time have a facility that meets the needs of the Salinas residents. So I think that's all for now. I'm just excited to get back at it and make some baby steps and hopefully bigger steps as time goes on.
Thank you, Rob. All right, then we're going to go ahead and take board director comments at this point. I'm going to take them in the order they came in. Director Craig.
I apologize because this is not the item that I have just a brief comment on, but I believe there was public comment submitted by Republic Services for item 12. And so I don't know at what point that's appropriate, but I received an email earlier and I recognized that I did not see it. So I just want to make sure that we identify it at some point. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I did try to address their concern with timing in my comments to say that, the board will have to decide on whether we move forward with the subsidy or not, and we can adjust that in the final budget so that we stay on our calendar as planned.
Respectfully speaking, if they submitted public comment, we should be reading their public comment.
If I could add some clarification for the record, their public comment, I believe, was included in the agenda packet, so it is a part of the record, unless there was a new email that I'm not aware of. But I believe
I had difficulty locating it. That's why I brought it up. So I'm sorry if I missed it, but I did not find it. So
it's on page 114 of the agenda packet. And I think it's the agenda.
Unless it's a different one. But
yeah, unless there's a different one. This one, I believe, is dated Wednesday, January 20th. If there is a new one, then we should add that to the record, definitely.
And I hadn't seen another one. Typically, I don't, in my practice, don't read things into the record unless it's new, within the last few hours and it's not part of the packet. So if there was another one, it wasn't sent my way.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification and thank you for correcting me on it.
No problem. Thank you. I'm going to go to Supervisor or Director Phillips next.
Yeah, Patrick, we've been working on this and working with the county about moving out to the Bronte area and Madison Lane. But are we also, if that doesn't work out and fall through, are we looking at other locations in Salinas? Because I think my opinion has always been we have to have a transfer station of some capacity in Salinas. Are we exploring other alternatives as a backup?
Well, I am doing that, but out of respect for the request from the interim city manager, you know, his goal for our discussions were to try to take the Republic option at Madison Lane to fruition before he would, in essence, free up some staff time in economic development at the city to begin working with us on alternate sites. But we do have some optional sites that we have been continuing to look at, either ones that have come up on the market, ones we've looked at in the past, and ones, again, that are obviously appropriately zoned in an industrial zone within the city. So we are looking, but we haven't put a lot of effort into going beyond just identifying options, and remain hopeful that we'll get to a solution at Baranda. But yeah, we do have fallback options, and Jim again has promised that, you know, if we get to an impasse with Republic for some reason, you know, the city would commit some resource to help us identify sites that would be appropriate for the city in their opinion and within their general plan. So,
right. Well, thank you, and I really support the Madison Lane. If we can make it all work with the county and the city and some of the others working together, especially if we get the bypass in there like we've talked about. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Seeing no other hands up, I'm going to take this out for public comment at this point. I see a hand up from Grant Leonard. Grant, we're going to go ahead and give you the floor to share your public comment.
Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Grant Leonard. I serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Solid Waste Authority representing North County. I want to introduce myself to the new members and say how excited we are to see this project continuing to move forward. The Citizens Advisory Group remains very engaged in this process. I want to thank the staff for keeping us up to date and scheduling meetings on this item as are needed. And then also want to echo Supervisor Phillips' comments there about making sure there are some backup options in the event Madison Lane does not work out. And then in general, we are interested to see what type of public-private partnership this takes, and always making sure that the interests of the agency are met as well as the community. So with that, look forward to the readout from closed session and then also working on this project in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Seeing no additional hands up on the public side, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board, see if there's any additional discussion or comments. Seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead and deem this report received. I believe at this point there was only a provide input and direction, and I'll turn to Patrick and see if there's anything you need in addition to the conversation that's already taken place.
No, nothing additional on this item.
Great. Then with that, we're going to...
Supervisor Lopez, I just wanted, I had my hand raised, but I came in late after you looked down. Just an acknowledgement that our new city manager, Steve Kerrigan, has a previous experience in negotiating regional solid waste authority agreements. And so that was one of the glowing things on his resume that we were interested in, and certainly recognize that we too here at the City of Salinas would like to find some resolve in finding that location. And I think Steve Kerrigan is our guy. So I just wanted you to be aware of that he has previous experience, and we're excited about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Craig. All right, seeing no additional hands up, we'll go ahead and consider that report received and move into item 14, which is our view ahead schedule. Turn that over to you, Patrick.
Right. Well, pretty typical for February. Budget is our big focus. We continue to be, engaged. And of course, I think the updates on the relocation and the notice withdrawal, those will probably be added to the future months. But for now, we just have the next 2 months. So next month right now is really focused around the preliminary budget, which you'll see in getting final input from the board before we prepare the final budget for 2020 or 21-22. We do have a couple other items that aren't on here yet because we don't have a date certain on them. One of those is to bring the board up to speed, and you heard a little bit about it under Ray's budget presentation, the issue of soil and landfill development. And so, as you know, I think we noticed sometime last year that we were in the middle of our 5-year permit review, which is a major undertaking for any solid waste agency. Landfill permits are very extensive and require a lot of input from health department, Cal Recycle, and the water board, and even to some level the air board. So it's a very comprehensive process. And I think for education purposes, we want to let the board know what that plan looks like, those updates, but most importantly, the landfill development plan for the remaining years and life of that site. We have some creative plans, and Brian Kennedy's been leading this work and coming up with some very creative ideas on how we manage the excess soil we have. So one of the reasons you saw high soil rates is at this point, if we get soil in from outside the landfill, it's just taking up garbage space. So the proposal on that rate is really simply, it's garbage. It has no benefit for us. But there are other options that contractors could consider. Other landfills that actually don't have enough soil and actually want that or charge much less for it. So I think that'll be an ongoing discussion around soil in particular, but probably in March, maybe April, we'll bring back a comprehensive presentation on landfill development planning. So the board's up to speed on that.
All right, thank you,
Other than
Patrick.
that, straightforward.
I see a hand up from Director Craig. I don't know if that's a legacy hand or if you're really interested in the view ahead schedule. I'll take it as a legacy hand. Thank you very much. See if I have any additional input from directors. See no hands going up. I'll take this out briefly for public comment. See no hands going up. I'll close public comment and bring it back. Again, this is just a look ahead for us. So taking it as no action needed and moving into our last item, which is us recessing into closed session. I'm going to go ahead and take it over to council and ask if in terms of process, we jump off. So letting new members know at 11:32 today, you should have received an email from Erica, which has the link for closed session. And then we come back. But council, anything you want to let either the public or directors know?
Just, Mr. President, that we would need to read the agenda item for the closed session item and then open public comment on that before heading over to closed session.
Great, thank you. So pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, to confer with legal counsel, we'll be recessed into closed session with legal counsel and real property negotiators, General Manager CAO Patrick Matthews, Assistant GM Operations Manager Cesar Zuniga, Finance and Administration Manager Ray Hendricks, and General Counsel Roy Santos concerning the possible terms and conditions of acquisition, lease, exchange, or sale of Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority property, APN number 003-051-086 and 003-051-087, located at 135 through 139 Sun Street, Salinas, California. Republic Services property, APN numbers 261-051-005 and 007 and 019, located at 1120 Madison Lane, Salinas, California. So with that, I will turn and see if we have any public input on this item. Seeing no hands going up, we will close public comment and recess to closed session, and we will reconvene here in open session before we wrap the night. But at this point, directors, please go find that link from 11:32 today, and we'll see you in closed session. Erica, you with us?
I am.
All right. Do I have a quorum?
Let's see. I'm still letting a few people in from.
Yeah, we have quorum.
We do
'cause we've
have
got
quorum.
Perfect. All right, then we are gonna go ahead and reconvene here and turn to council, see if there's anything to report out from closed session.
There's nothing to report out at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Roy. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for sticking with us through this long evening, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chris.
guys.
Great
Take care.
job.
Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Good
guys.
night.
Night.